Places are often measured by the trail of legacy they leave behind, and the one that they live up to in our present time. And perhaps there's rarely a more remarkable example than Vienna, a city that lives up to its name. Throughout the years, I've always wanted to go to Vienna and see it from my own eyes. The city's name writ large all over history books, on literature, a few favourite films, travel guides, even from the word of mouth on friends' lips, delicately spoken around literate and artistic circles, often addressed with great admiration. That European capital of elegance, that classical city of music, of incredible art and iconic architecture, that city of unparalleled imperial beauty. Now that I've finally seen Vienna and soaked up in its rapturous atmosphere, I could say that I am smitten. Without a scintilla of doubt, this is one of the great cities of our time. And in the Austrian capital, refinement is second to none. At first glance, Vienna is regal and imposing, its buildings grand and stately. Thanks to its legendary imperial history, the influence of the Holy Roman Empire, and the vast wealth of the Habsburg dynasty. You walk along its streets and roads lined with impeccably crafted facades, you'd feel this sense of nostalgic grandeur. A city that aimed and attempted in achieving a perfected gilded glory. And achieved and perfected it did. In a city that's as encompassing as Vienna, you'd ask yourself where to start. Perhaps the answer is simple. Go directly to the beating heart of Vienna, the Innenstadt. This is the first district of the city, circumferenced by the Ringstraße, or the Ring Road, which was ordered during the mid-19th century by the Emperor of Austria, Franz Joseph I. When the city took down its fortified medieval walls and instead laid out this grand circular boulevard that contains much of Vienna's cultural, imperial and artistic masterpieces. Here lies the landmarks of Baroque and Romantic palaces, Renaissance museums, Gothic cathedrals, grand operas and period coffee houses that have drawn the distinguished and the literati across generations. I visited Vienna in the winter, and yes, as much as it's an embodiment of the Mittel European winter weather, it is nonetheless beautiful. And in December, it's quite a special month, and the city radiates with such festive glow. Vienna wears its best Christmas groove with lights and decorations, contributing to a magical atmosphere. It's a time where every major square or park is transformed into some of the best Christmas markets I've ever been. The Christkindlmarkt in Rathausplatz, the biggest in Vienna, drawing crowds and offering over 150 booths of Austrian culinary treats, punsch, glühwein, and all kinds of handicrafts you can imagine, including snow globes, which was invented here in Vienna. There's also the Christmas village in Maria-Theresienplatz, located between the Kunsthistorisches and Naturhistorisches museums. And there's also the market at Stephansplatz, with St. Stephen's Cathedral looming at the backdrop. There's even the art advent at Karlsplatz, where food and drinks are all organic and locally produced. You can even go imperial at Schloss Belvedere, a truly elegant setting for a Christmas village. Elsewhere, Vienna is laid out majestically, with plenty of things to do and places to see. When I travel, I like to take my time and relish my engagement with the city and take my feet everywhere. And perhaps there's nothing better but to really look at the city from up above. I had two things in mind. One is to climb up at St. Stephen's Cathedral. There was an option for an elevator, but as it goes, the sweetest reward in life comes with a struggle. Thus, I climbed 343 steps all the way to the tower to get this view of Vienna. Next up, I went to Prater, the largest park in Vienna's second district, Leopoldstadt, and took the iconic Wiener Riesenrad. You'll recognize it in popular films such as Carol Reed's The Third Man and Richard Linklater's romantic masterpiece Before Sunrise. It's a 20-minute ride on that giant Ferris wheel, and if you go up there during the sunset, it's a view to take your breath away. Both in past and present, hardly any city have focused its energy, ambition and pride on artistic and cultural achievement. In this sense, you can feel the passion in Vienna and its high regard for the arts and culture. It's a city that's spoilt for choice when it comes to museums, and there are over 100 museums in the city, and some are the best in the world. At Museums Quartier, one of the largest districts dedicated to contemporary art and culture in the world, you'll find some of Vienna's greatest cultural spaces such as MUMOG, the largest modern art museum in Central Europe, and Leopold Museum, which houses the biggest collection by artist Egon Schiele. Nearby is the Kunsthistorisches Museum, with this stunning neo-Baroque building that's quite possibly one of the most ornate museums on the planet. It is also home to masterpieces in the art world, works by Raphael, Caravaggio, Bernini, Bruegel, and so many more. And don't forget to check out the Cupola Café, located right at the very heart of this building. For more art exhibitions, especially if you're into Monet, Picasso, and the incredible German artist Albrecht Dürer, head to Albertina. This place has the largest and most valuable graphical collection in the world, and will surely satisfy your cravings for art. Another gem along the Ringstrasse is the Museum of Applied Arts, with its glorious neo-Renaissance building espousing art and design throughout the ages. And what's an artistic trip to Vienna without knowing all about the Wiener Secession movement, the so-called temple of art built to bring Viennese art to the modern world? Go in and gaze lovingly at Beethoven's frieze, painted by the movement's founder and one of Austria's greatest artists, Gustav Klimt. Speaking of Klimt, I took my aesthetic journey to a grand culmination at the exquisite Schloss Belvedere, this Baroque palace which also happens to be a museum, containing one of art world's divine treasures, The Kiss by Klimt. The museum itself is one of the most visited in Vienna, thanks to its incredibly elegant setting. Do take time to wander around this beautiful palace and its idyllic grounds. Vienna is a symphony, and as they say, music comes from Vienna. Lest we forget, this was once the epicenter of classical music, where incredible composers lived and thrived and gave birth to immortal compositions. This was the city of Mozart, Beethoven, Haydn, Brahms and Mahler, Schubert, Schoenberg and Vivaldi. Music is so entwined with Viennese culture that there are concerts everywhere. Music is so intrinsic in Viennese life that at New Year's Eve, Strauss's The Blue Danube sends people waltzing around the streets of Vienna. The city's classical atmosphere does not end there. For a regal experience, go to Schloss Schönbrunn, which is without a doubt one of Europe's most magnificent imperial palaces and gardens. This is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site and perhaps the most popular tourist site in the entire of Austria. This was once the Habsburgs' summer residence, but I can fairly say I quite like it in the winter too, as it's very atmospheric. You'd be forgiven to feel classical and a touch aristocratic by walking around here, which is entirely free for anyone who wants to experience the vast palatial gardens. Furthermore, I've indulged in possibly the most essential aspect of Viennese culture, lingering in the café house. I've learned that coffee houses here are considered extensions of the Viennese living room, where people simply stay for a while, to read, to eat, to sip melange, and converse and linger even more. In some of the classic coffee houses, you can sip coffee and eat sacerdote the entire afternoon and no one will bother you. Thankfully, these warm, cozy cafes make for great shelters from the cold, wintry weather outside. The world goes on, but inside here, it's as if time has slowed down. I've had a fair few afternoons lingering in Café Sperle, eating schnitzels and Apfelstrudel. This period coffee house was also used as a film setting in Linklaters Before Sunrise, and recently David Cronenberg's A Dangerous Method, which featured Sigmund Freud, who was at the time a regular in this cafe. And you can't really talk about Vienna without the mention of psychoanalysis and intellectualism. For these period coffee houses, from Café Sperle, from the elegant Café Landmann to the vaulted ceilings of Café Central and the old-school Café Heine, have all been the second homes of great thinkers, writers, artists and intellectuals, where some of the groundbreaking 19th and 20th century ideas were passionately, fervently formed. But even if you're not in the mood for philosophizing, there are plenty of places to satisfy the voracious appetite. For a lovely brunch, go to Palmenhaus and find yourself in the ambience of a former emperor's greenhouse. For local Viennese delicatessen, go to the popular Zum Schwarzen Kamil, or even the gourmet wonders of Julius Meinl just along the road. And for another great place for schnitzel, head to Meisel in Schaden for that classic Wiener schnitzel with garnishes, as served to past patrons like Stefan Zweig and Freud himself. Later, for glorious cakes, since Café Sacca is always packed, go to Café Gerstner and indulge in Sackertorte or even a Gerstner torte, as you savor them in the gilded salon upstairs. Or go to Café Diglas, which is very popular for their fresh homemade cakes, and when you're in luck, a little piano concert as time goes by. And if you're craving for a more bohemian open-air market experience, you'll find it at Naschmarkt, Vienna's largest and most beloved market, offering over 120 food stalls where you can find almost anything. It's a great place to eat, to drink, and explore so many different delicacies and cuisines. During my time in Vienna, I stayed in Hotel Beethoven, this wonderfully cozy, pitch-perfect boutique hotel, appointed with grace, style, and elegance. Its 47 different rooms are each uniquely decorated and dedicated to Vienna's art, music, design, and culture. In a heartwarming moment, I've asked a true Viennese, Barbara Ludwig, the hotel owner and managing director, what she loves most about Vienna and what it means to be a Viennese today.
Vienna has a great quality, although it's the capital of Austria and quite a big city. We have about 2 million inhabitants. It's really cozy city and a slow city. So it's not like London and New York and Paris, which are really fascinated international metropolitans. You still can feel the spirit of the past, and it's still a little slower. The second thing which I really like is the spirit of the art and the music. And Vienna used to be the capital of a really great imperium. They collected a lot of art and spent a lot of money in art and culture, and you still can feel that spirit. So a typical Viennese is a great mixture of the best of Europe, I would say, and we can be proud of that. Hopefully, I don't know if it's true, but I know a lot of Viennese, we are very open. We have a lot of tourists and we are happy about them, and it should remain like that. You know, always be open and welcome guests and friends.
Vienna, to me, is a place that truly lives up to its legacy. It embraces its past, makes it relevant for the present, and looks upon a future that's open, welcoming, and deserving of its reputation as one of the world's most livable cities. It's a pride of European culture, and a stunning example that cities can be dignified and, yes, exquisitely beautiful. There is so much art in Vienna. I've barely scratched the surface, and for this, it's a destination for lovers of art and music and architecture, and delightful visits in coffee houses and dreamy palaces. I cannot wait to go back again, to see another side of life in Vienna. I love this city, and I have a feeling you'll love it too.